What's up, everyone, and welcome to Before the Brawl, your one-stop shop to kind of find out what's going on with the upcoming Winter Royale. It is going to be a little bit of a unique experience, both for the viewers and for the players. So, oh, wait. Hi. What, define crazy?
Yeah, he totally sounds fine.
Well, it seems like Toast has to deal with his own problems. But yeah, okay, so this is going to be before the Brawl because, of course, they're going to be brawling at the Winter Royale. We'll tell you about some of the players, some of the formats, stuff like that. But before we get into that, we got to do some World of Brawlhalla stuff. Toast, are you ready, or do you need to fix some things before we get into that? Oh no, he's ready. He's good. Okay. So first things first, of course, you got to pick up your merch. You're gonna go to brawlhalla.com/merch. Of course, that's where you can pick up all that goodness. You can pick up the Spiff crew neck. You can also pick up some of that Yeti merch, which comes with that Yeti Tarot skin. And of course, you can pick up some of the stuff from BCX, like that water bottle, or maybe even those joggers, which are super comfy. I'm literally wearing those as well right now. So I'm just wearing Brawlhalla merch. Sparky, what's your favorite thing of the merch?
Definitely the joggers, 100%. My mom loves them. I love mine. I wear them probably. I'm really good about like not wearing dirty clothes because I'm like a normal functioning human for the most part. Okay. But every now and then, I let those sweatpants go a little bit too long because they are very comfortable. Usually I'll wear them like twice, maybe 3 times. Of course, doing nothing yucky, just like being around the house and not like working out in them or going on a jog in them. So yeah, sometimes I'll let those go like a couple days.
Okay, that's fine. But yeah, pick up your merch now at brawlhalla.com/merch. And rumor is, spoilers, that there might be some special merch for this Winter Royale. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but we'll find out. Anyways, of course, you also want to pick up your Prime bundle. This one is going to be going away soon, so make sure you pick up this Hattori Prime bundle. Get that well-played emo as well as those 2 avatars, especially that Dander avatar, free if you have Prime gaming over at brawlhalla.com/Prime.
And if you have Prime Gaming, you might as well drop a Prime sub maybe right now.
Primers?
To get ready for the Winter Royale. Just check to see if you have one ready. I certainly forget. Do I have one ready? I don't even know how to look at it.
You got to click the subscribe button, and then there's a button that says subscribe free with Prime.
Oh, you know what?
Just check. Just find out.
There you go. I'm that right there. Cool. I think we just did it. Show my streak. Share.
Oh, what's your what are you?
This is just a 1-month streak.
Oh, okay. That's, you know what? That's a good streak. You know what's also
I don't have a me to remind me to put in my Prime when it runs out. So yeah, as you were saying.
Speaking of months, of course, we're now into the month of March. So we got to pick up those community tournaments. If you're interested, you want to participate in maybe an environment that maybe doesn't have the same level of pressure as something like the Winter Championship, or maybe you want something a little bit more closer to home, like something like Estasau or these Moose Wars, NSIG, Brawling. Of course, so many fantastic tournaments out there. I think there's even like sometimes Australian and Southeast Asian community tournaments. Like I think Bearded Brawls did some Australia stuff last month.
NSIG puts on SEA stuff as well. I think there's one like right around the corner.
Exactly. So if you're interested at all in community tournaments, maybe something to keep you going between these big events, then check that out. Start.gg/BH community or brawlhalla.com/BH community, whichever link you want to use. Okay.
What else we got in the pipeline?
Okay, it's the main event now. We're getting into the Winter Royale, which of course is going to be this weekend, March 10th and 11th. It's kind of weird dates for people who have calendars open in front of them because that is Friday and Saturday, not our normal Saturday Sunday event. And that's again because this Royale is something different, and also because we've got people flying in all over the world. But some stuff that you can pick up for you at home watching, because of course we've only got 8 people flying in. Everyone else, you get to watch from home. You can pick up that icy in-game title. What else can they get?
They can get esports colors V3. Wow, those look nice. Ooh, RGB Qatars. Everybody loves RGB. My computer's full of them. So yeah, RGB Qatars right there, and many more things probably.
Probably. Let's see what's next on our slides. Hold on. Pause, champ. DreamHack San Diego. Make sure you sign up for that. Another big event, of course, our first in-person event since the World Championship. Going to be completely open, and of course, going to be over in San Diego. We're going to get to go over to the West Coast to participate in some offline experience. It's going to be awesome seeing all this stuff. Like all the people that are talking about it on Twitter is super exciting to me. Hearing these players shift up. I think Wes dropped Phazon, which is hilarious to me. It's goodness.
He dropped him for Fiend. Like that's.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
It's not like he's just like Phazon. He's not good enough for me. I'm gonna pick up Rando 225, which means if you're really good at Brawlhalla, I think he's still looking for a teammate for DreamHack San Diego. So make sure to go on over to twitter.com/Phazon VR, like virtual reality, but actually it stands for Vincent Reese. And he has a tweet up saying he's looking for a teammate for San Diego again. So maybe you can throw your name into that ring, throw your hat into that ring. Maybe you yourself could team with Phazon at DreamHack San Diego.
And if he doesn't pick you, then you can still go to San Diego and look him in the eyes and say, why didn't you pick me?
That's true.
But what else is going on? Of course, we got to announce the Spring Championship. We're talking about the Winter Royale today, but of course, the next Royale will be after the Spring Championship. $100,000 prize pool, still absurd levels of prize pool action going out there. And of course, it's going to be an online event, so you don't have to fly out anywhere. You can just play from home. You know the goodness if you've seen any of our seasonal events.
Yeah, we have a nice little suite of events coming up. We have the Winter Royale, which is for like the top players of all. Everyone else gets to mostly watch along at home. But then we also have DreamHack San Diego, where you can come and play in person for that in-person experience. But if you're not able to make it out for that, then Spring Championship is right around the corner for you to get in on the action as well from the comfort of your own home. So a nice like separate levels of Brawlhalla events that people can all participate in different ways.
Yeah, make sure you sign up for that. And of course, with that, there's going to be all sorts of rewards for watching the Spring Championship or even watching DreamHack San Diego. So you can see all sorts of this, right? You got the lucky in-game title. You got that cool hammer, that RGB orb. Of course, you're going to get some colors as well for watching. And then, of course, if you watch DreamHack San Diego, RGB sword, the Sandy in-game title, or you can get, if you attend in person, you get a special Immortal in-game title. That's crazy. I didn't know you got in-person stuff for going to DreamHack San Diego. That's more reason to sign up.
Yeah, normally all of the goodies like that are kind of just saved for BCX, but the fact that you're going to get that if you go to DreamHack San Diego is really cool. Immortal that's a very bold title as well. We go from like icy and sandy to immortal. That's pretty serious.
It's special because of course you have to get it in person. It's like a special thing just for going to DreamHack San Diego. And someone in chat was like, why Sandy? It's probably because San Diego, Sandy.
Wait, was that for spring or was that for DreamHack San Diego?
Wasn't that DreamHack San Diego?
I mean, either way, like California has beaches and it's like near the beach. So it's probably for that and not like San Diego sounds like Sandy.
No, it's definitely for the wordplay. You know we love that here. Okay, so let's talk about I think it's time we talk about the Winter Royale. What's going on? How does it work? What are some things that people can expect? Of course, I mentioned it earlier. It's going to be different in terms of days, right? It's not our normal Saturday Sunday event where we got 1v1s and 2v2s. Instead, it is going to be 1v1's like the big day where we got all this competition, which we'll talk about in a second, but Friday is all about that media stuff. So if you come in watching on March 10th, you're going to catch that 2v2 action. Of course, that's why we're not going to have a dev stream this Friday, but in the later part of the day, we'll have that 2v2s. And then in Saturday, we'll get into the Royales and then a final top 4 Sparky. What do you know about that general format?
Okay, so the Royale is virtually different from everything we've ever done in the past, and it's for a multitude of reasons, right? So normally, like, we've had invitational events in the past. That's been a mainstay. The Steel Series Invitational, the Omen Oasis Invitational, all that kind of stuff. So normally that was like the top 8 or however many given for the event PR from that region. So it was specifically like long-term PR based. So the top 8 would get the invitation. Everybody else would just have to, or not have to, but get to watch the event from the comfort of their own home. And also these invitationals were always online. now with the Winter Royale, we're kind of taking we're grabbing a bunch of different ingredients from a bunch of different tournaments and kind of adding them all into one for this hyper competitive sort of preview for the later LAN events throughout the year. So it's taking the top 3, not PR, but placements from the Winter Championship for the Winter Royale of North America, the top 3 placements from the Winter Championship of EU for the Winter Royale, and the top 2 from South America. All of them are getting invited and actually flown down to Atlanta, where they will play in person. So it's all of the beauty of a LAN event from the terms of top competition, but it's also hyper focused on specifically the top 8, and it's going to be that in-person experience. So it's going to be some of the best Brawlhalla gameplay that we've seen this entire year. It's just a lot of really cool aspects kind of rolled into one delicious burrito of a tournament.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting. It's something that we haven't really done before. And of course, a lot of people are excited to see the competition. Those are the names of the people that are going to be competing, of course, this weekend. We've got Radish, Stingray, and Luna, the top 3 of North America. Machete, Neeze, and Godly, the top 3 EU Winter Championship. And then Kyna and Sack. Sack kind of the outlier here because Sack is a replacement for Hughes, who got into 2nd place. Sack got 3rd place at the South American Winter Championship, but he has the capability of coming.
And that's sort of the beauty of these Royales, is that we'll have one, of course, for the Winter Championship, like we're about to see in less than a week. Then we'll have one for Spring, and so on for the rest of the seasonals this year. So that means we could have wildly different, because it's based on placement and not PR. We could have wildly different players coming out to the Spring, coming out to the Summer Royale. All of that, it could be the same, it could be different. We could see half of the same people. We could see our usual suspects coming back. We also could see completely new faces every time. And that's the beauty and the variety of this format, is that we're also going to get to see Sack go up against Luna, and we're going to get to see Godly go up against Machete. That's normal, but also Radish and Stingray, and then I expect to see Godly at several Royales, so we'll get to see him go up against other people beyond who he goes up against at the World Championship, beyond who he goes up against at San Diego.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. Again, it starts off with that round robin format. So we literally get to see everyone compete against everyone else. I'm not 100% on how much is getting streamed anywhere else, so I'm not going to put Toast on the spot with that. But just know there's going to be a lot of action, and we get to see a lot of that goodness of seeing that kind of cross-regional competition. Toast is about to... Are you going to say it? Oh, you're in our ears. They can't hear you. Okay. Toast is speaking. I'm gonna be his mouthpiece. We're not gonna show stuff on mainstream, but it'll go somewhere else.
Where is it going?
The goal is to stream every single game so people can watch it, but it might not all be on the mainstream. That's the plan. It's not a side stream. It's just going to be gameplay, no casting in some cases,
which probably most people are going to like a lot better.
Yeah, honestly, that's people have said that they just mute when I'm talking, so
But
okay,
yeah,
so
being able to
that's
show all of those games, literally every single game, is super cool. And that's one of the benefits of this hyper-focused 8-player event, is we're going to get to hyper-focus and look in on everybody's run through the tournament. It's essentially going to be a top 8, but it's a top 8 that's going to take place all day. You're going to get to see so many different things. You're going to get to see all of these different players. The round robin phase is going to be really cool to get to see everybody go up against everybody. I made a little table of people's matchup history, and I am very excited for Winter Royale to get to see that fill out more, because there's a lot of 0-1s and 1-0s from different regions based on specifically BCX. So I'm really looking forward to getting that filled out a little bit more and getting to see everybody's matchups against people in their region and then against other regions as well.
Okay, well, let's get into today. Toast asked me for order, and I said random, and so is that how he ran? He's literally randoming through it right now. Okay, this is a little fast if we're supposed to talk about everyone. Radish, Neeze.
That's Neeze, of course.
Oh, okay. Was that him spinning the wheel?
Neeze was the last one.
Oh, Radish.
Nope, there's Radish and Neeze.
Okay, we're starting with Neeze. All right, Neeze. to me, okay, thinking about today and all the players, Neeze to me is the most wild card of all the players invited to the Winter Royale. You can look at his notable tournament placements. Some of these I think are put here specifically to insult Neeze, because you go from a second at the Winter Championship to a 13th at the World Championship to a 3rd at the Autumn Championship to a 17th at the Summer Championship. This guy is arguably the most kind of wild card player. You never know. Even going into the World Championship last year, people were like, keep an eye on Neeze, he's gonna pop off. And well, he got 13th. Not terrible, because of course you got the top players from around the world, but still, it's kind of this, he's this wild card where you never know. Going from 13th at the World Championship to 2nd at the Winter Championship, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, if you talk to a lot of the EU kids, like I'm specifically looking at Polymonto for this one, but there were a lot of people that were like mid-season invitational. Neeze has a good chance of taking this one, and obviously we saw that not actually play out that way. He ended up getting 17th at the mid-season championship, but a lot of people were really confident that Neeze was going to like possibly take that event, but top 3 as well. So man, wildcard is the perfect descriptor for Neeze. I don't know what he's got going into this one. Of course, 2nd at the Winter Championship this year was big. That was much higher than I expected Neeze to place. So maybe going into this one, it will be an interesting sort of like culture shock for Neeze, because one of the previous LAN events that he went to, other than the World Championship where he got 13th, was like a long time ago, all the way back in 2019. He went to DreamHack Atlanta, which was the World Championship, got 7th then, but then also was at Summer Championship, ended up getting 9th. So he has a little bit of travel experience. He's gone to Worlds twice, which is of course travel to North America, traveled to Atlanta all the way from Sweden. But like the DreamHack Summer, that was just like a different place in Sweden. Of course, that was at Jönköping.
Yeah, just looking at his overall performance across like his entire lifetime in Brawlhalla esports, which he's been a competitor for a very long time. Of course, we've got tournaments going all the way back to 2018. His only gold medal was back in 2019 in the Autumn Championship. I was thinking about like coming into today that basically almost everyone here has the chance to get the W at the Winter Royale, because almost all of them have a gold medal. Sack is kind of the exclusion in that regard, but everyone else has a gold medal. Everyone else has had that placement to prove that they can get that gold medal.
What did Neeze win?
He won the Autumn Championship 2019.
Oh yeah, I see that 2019 Autumn Championship. You mentioned Neeze alongside Sack. One thing that they are actually going to share here is they don't have a winning record against any of the other players in this tournament. They are the two that are sort of unique in that aspect, is they have a losing record or no record against every other player that is going to this tournament. Now, Neeze has a losing record to Godly, where he's 1-4. He's 0-1 to Luna. He is 5-8 against Machete, and he is 0-2 against Radish.
Yeah, if you're gonna start turning those 0-1s into 1-1s, pretty good place to do it is the Winter Royale. Although I don't think the Winter Royale actually affects those stats. But either way, we're on to the next one.
Probably, yeah. I actually don't. That's a good question. That's a good question for the fellas in production, and probably Creed and Pranav, who
Someone
are the driving force behind the stats.
Well, we'll figure out when we harass Creed in person at the Winter Royale. But all right, next person on the docket. Let's spin the wheel and see who we end up talking about.
Beep 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 beep. Big bucks, no whammy. Beep 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 beep. Is he gonna put it up? Is he beep 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 beep? I really want to slow this wheel down. It's moving mighty fast.
It's going so slow. It's gonna
beep 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 beep. It's Luna, hailing all the way, of course, from North America.
Definitely
number 2.
One of the favorites.
Yeah, one of your favorite players here of recent, as of late.
For sure, but I think there's an overall favoritism towards Luna, not just like only me carrying the mantle of like Luna fanboy. He's been a dominant force in the North American region. I feel like this graphic doesn't really do him justice. Of course, the 3rd place at the World Championship is amazing. He lost to Godly and Impala. One of those people is not able or did not earn the ability to come out to the Winter Royale. So kind of the biggest threats in that regard is going to be Godly. But you also couple that with the fact, like, in terms of these community tournaments, as of late, I've been seeing the tweets. Sandstorm keeps saying, yo, I'm going home in second place behind one person, and that's Luna.
Now, Luna, based on the characters or players that are making it out to the Winter Royale, Luna has one of the better records against everyone here today. He's 5-3 against Stingray. He is 0-1 against Godly. Of course, we saw that at the World Championship. He's 1-0 over Neeze, and he is 5-1 over Radish. Now, of course, this is all tournaments. Keep in mind, this is community tournaments included with all of these tournaments going on. So, yeah, Luna is going into this one probably coming out a top 3. I know a lot of people expect that to happen. I certainly expect that to happen as well.
Yeah, of course. He has a relatively large character pool. I think this graphic might be a little bit out of date because, of course, most people remember the Taros. Of course, they've seen the Mordex, they've seen the Lucian. He's also been playing there was something else recently. He's been playing all sorts of like side stuff. He did like Giro in a tournament as well. So he's definitely been mixing it up a lot. And of course, he had a lot of success in 2s with the Winter Championship doubles win. But you can see, even like going back in the past, he got gold medal at the mid-season championship, the last in-person event before the World Championship. And then, of course, first in Spring Championship, first in Omen Oasis. He's got multiple gold medals around his neck.
Meta-wise, if he is sticking with the Lucian, that's probably a pretty solid choice based on the way things are going. Of course, you saw on many of the other different player cards that we went through earlier, you saw Asuri. You know, based on if you saw any Winter Championship footage whatsoever from the main 3 regions that will be competing in the Winter Royale, Katars are huge. Everybody's loving Katars right now. They like where it fits into the meta. They like how you play it. They like how to be successful with Katars. So, of course, Lucian coming in here, even though it's like not the pick that we've known for years from Luna, still a solid pick coming out. Blasters were looking fantastic. Was loving seeing those as well. Love to watch Blasters gameplay. Any good player who has blasters in their hands, I'm a big fan of that. So I like the Lucian pick coming out from Luna. Hopefully he learns some things from the Winter Championship. One of the biggest things I saw with Luna is he got a little bit too hasty with the signature usage. He toned it down a little bit. Lucian is one of those legends where you can let him fly every now and then. You can use him more than you might for like your other average legend that's being picked. But he got a little bit too lost in the sauce. That was something we mentioned throughout the Winter Championship weekend. I think that was part of him specifically learning how he wants to play Lucian in current meta, in current year.
That's something that, like, I was very critical of his play at the World Championship as well with the Caspian. He was throwing out a lot of SIGs, started to get punished a lot. And one thing specifically for this weekend that I'm a little bit worried about with Luna is that at the Winter Championship, the person who beat him twice, the person who knocked him out, was Stingray. He went 0-2 against Stingray, and it wasn't one singular character. Luna mixed it up a little bit, but for the most part, he stuck to that Mordex, and Stingray beat him with the Zol 3-1 in the winter semifinal, and then when they went to the elimination finals, Stingray swapped to the Vrax, which ended up winning the final 2 games to knock out Luna. So Luna should be a little bit worried. We'll see how well that Lucian works out in comparison, but that's definitely something that I'd be a little bit nervous about.
I think he's definitely happy. I can't remember who exactly it was, but in my mind, it comes as Luna, as like someone who was happy that even though they didn't come out with the gold medal, that Luna was happy to qualify for the Winter Royale, even though it's like a quote-unquote lower place than when one might expect from one of the greatest North American 1v1 players out there. The fact that he just barely made it into the Winter Royale, that was probably a wake-up call. I know he was happy to make it in for the Winter Royale so he could get the trip, so he could come out to Atlanta, but I guarantee that was certainly a wake-up call for him, and I'm really excited to see what he has planned for this weekend.
For sure. All right, is it time to spin the wheel again?
Beep 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 beep. And it's Zach coming from South America. It's a South American PR4. Now, we mentioned him a little bit earlier as not having a winning record against any of the players. Part of that is because he hasn't really traveled except for the World Championship, where, of course, he ended up losing to Machete. So, of the 2 players he actually has a record against, one of them is Machete, where he's down 0-1 in terms of sets. That was, of course, at the World Championship. And then he's down 0-2 against Kyna. That just comes from regular region tournaments.
Yeah, Sack to me is the underdog out of everyone here. Only 2 top 8 placements. Didn't have the best performance at the World Championship either. I think let's see, came in at 17th, which I think is the lowest out of everybody who's coming to the Winter Royale. So by and large, I think a lot of people are going to be very much under expecting what Sack is going to be bringing to the table. Of course, likely going to be all about that Asuri. Just checking out the stats page, he has 19 of his reported 2023 games on that Asuri. So it's going to be pretty much all about that Asuri.
So yeah, Sack is definitely an interesting one because he's one of the few players here that like doesn't have the strongest track record, where even if like recent placements quote unquote aren't so hot, like he still has a solid track record to rely on. And that was kind of what people were looking at for a player like Neeze. All of a sudden, like, let's just rewind before Winter Championship, because he played extremely well at Winter Championship and placed really well at Winter Championship. But like right before that, the conversations that we were having about a player like Neeze were that, okay, he has all of these amazing tournament placements from like a couple years ago, so we know he has that potential. Sack, we've seen some potential, but he doesn't have that like deep history, because Sack is more of like an up and coming player than virtually anybody else that we're going to be talking about for Winter Royale.
Yeah, you're going to see Sack compared to a lot of very established players. I mean, even in the South American region, we're seeing kind of that shift away from like the old heads of Fiend and West, and even like to a degree Power. And now you're seeing kind of these new bloods come up like Kyna and Sack and Lores. So very interesting performance. Oh, and Use as well. But very interesting. We'll see how well Sack does. Again, I think he's kind of the big question mark. Like, is he going to bust her out and go 0-7 in the round robins? I hope not, but like, who knows?
Yeah, Sack coming out and getting 3rd place at the Winter Championship was huge. Like, that was actually massive for him. I mean, we know that he's what was his PR again? Okay, he's PR number 4. That was a jump. That was actually a massive jump. Previously, before the Winter Championship, he was PR 7. So he actually jumped 3 places, which at that level, at that high of a level, is massive for him, coming out in 3rd place at the Winter Championship. If we look at him in Worlds, like you said, 17th, even in his own region right before that in Autumns, he's like in and out of top 8, coming in 9th at the Autumn Championship, 7th at Summers right before that, back to 9th at Springs, and then 17th at the Winter Championship of 2022. So he has his ins and outs, but instead of being like inside and outside of top 3, he's inside and outside of top 8. So this is definitely going to be a big proving ground for Sack to come in and sort of like begin establishing himself as a global threat when we're talking about actually traveling to lands and playing in person.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think we've seen it happen a lot in the past. Is like the people who are able to travel to these in-person events and compete against people from around the world, they get a different type of experience where they either get more motivation or they just get kind of that general gameplay knowledge of talking with other people and being like, oh, this is what you do in this situation that I never thought of, because people in my region don't ever do that. And so it'll be a big growth opportunity for Sack at the very least.
One thing that's going to be really interesting for kind of all South American players is that like something that they had at BCX that they're not going to have here is that like whole stable of other South American players that are rooting them on, and that sort of like language familiarity as well. That's they're kind of going to be in a quote unquote foreign land more than like EU players will be, and they're not going to have that group of South American players that are thick as thieves and able to support one another through this event. So it's going to be a much kind of lonelier event if you want to look at it that way. There's of course going to be the camaraderie between regions and top Brawlhalla players and players who have seen each other play for years and have like been able to like visit and meet each other at events. But still, for the South American region, this is going to be a different environment than I think that they're maybe used to. So they're going to have to like deal with that quote unquote like loneliness and isolation in a much different way than I think the other regions will have to.
Yeah, I think there's potential for Sack and Kyna to kind of lean on each other as kind of being those 2 South Americans a little bit more than you'll see some of the other players. But I mean, overall, hopefully everybody's friendly and polite enough to say hi. But yeah, I think it is, like you said, kind of there's going to be this emotional distancing that happens for Sack and Kyna, of course, being as like the lone South Americans coming into North American territory to compete against these guys.
But they can lean on each other, like you said, because they were previously teammates. So it's not like they're two strangers who have only seen each other play through like tournament sets. They're people who have played together on the same team with the same goal in mind. So they definitely have there is a support structure there.
Yeah, and everyone support is very important. Of course, it would be interesting to see how much like social media and whatnot kind of impacts that, right? Because I think we've seen in the past a lot of love online for the South Americans, and maybe that'll be another place that they kind of search for that kind of emotional validation. But I think it's time to spin the wheel.
Beep 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 beep.
This bit is gonna get tired very fast.
Beep 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 beep. It's Godly from EU.
Interesting in that Godly, by I think a lot of accounts, should be the favorite for this. He should be the big name who is expected to win, considering he, of all the people coming to the Winter Royale, did the best at the World Championship, the last in-person competition where all of these people were able to compete. He got the farthest, but he's coming not too hot off of a third place finish in the Winter Championship. He got beaten out by Neeze. He got beaten out by Machete. So it's kind of an interesting situation where it's like we don't necessarily have that Godly guarantee that we have had in the past.
Now, he is going to have winning records, even though he does have recent losses against those two players, like you mentioned. He does have winning records against everybody that's going to this tournament that he's faced before. He has not faced Stingray, he has not faced Radish, and he has not faced Sack yet, but he has a winning record against Kyna. It was I believe it was a Game 5 at the World Championship that I watched in horror as I saw it just slip further and further away from Kyna as he struggled to KO. Godly also has a winning record against Luna from the World Championship. He has a winning record against Machete, Neeze, and then that is all that he has faced. So he's faced half of the competitors that are making it to this tournament, and he has a winning record against all of them.
Well, that's definitely something that's really nice for him. Of course, he's coming in as the 7th seed, which, again, with the round robin format, it doesn't impact a whole lot because ultimately everyone competes against everyone, but it does kind of change the way that your day goes because you're not going in and starting off your day competing against, and this is going to sound really mean, you're not going in against Sack, who is arguably like the quote-unquote weakest link here. Instead, his day is going to start off going against Radish, the winner of the Winter Championship for North America. Then he goes into Machete, the winner of the Winter Championship for EU. Then he goes into Kyna, the winner of the Winter Championship for South America. So Godly's day starts very rough, but if he can weather that storm, I think it'll kind of shake out a little bit better for him.
And I'm glad you bring up that round robin format because that's a very important thing to look at, is that seed does matter, but it also really doesn't matter because with round robin, everybody is going to play everybody. And then like the top scorers of that will then determine your seed in the actual top 8 bracket as we get into sort of the format that we're more used to. So round robin is going to change a lot of things because you catch a loss early on. Like if you're Godly, if you catch an L in round 1, it's not like, oh, you only have one more chance before you're knocked out. So it's not like anybody is going to have a super short weekend. That gives people time to catch those L's early, still be able to come back by grabbing the victories later on while they're going through the round robin, and then enter into that official, like actual regular double elimination bracket that we're used to with everything that you learned throughout the day. Because you could have a horrible seed coming out of round robin going into the actual double elim bracket, but if you learned enough in the round robin phase, then that can almost not matter.
Yeah, of course, that is going to be one of those things that's nice, is like you also get the opportunity to learn about what your opponents are doing, because regardless of how you do in the round robin, if you both make it into the top 4, then you're going to be competing against each other again. It's kind of funny looking at Godly's history as a competitor. We kind of showed it for a little bit there. Is like he started off just winning everything and then lost in the Autumn Championship and has since kind of been shaken. It's almost the opposite of Sack, where Sack has like this upward trajectory. Godly's kind of had a downward trajectory of going from multiple gold medals to a 2nd at Autumn, 2nd at the Winter Championship, and then 3rd at the Winter Championship.
Ooh, you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody in between. Godly felled off straight from the mouth of Duke. He said it. I don't agree with him. He's saying Godly's washed. He said he's fell off. He said he's going to get last, right next to Sack. So that's Sack slander today. That's Godly slander today as well.
Oh, I got more slander. I'm all North American bias. All right. I skipped over Neeze. I'm sorry. I forgot Neeze existed, man. Like we just glossed that one over.
So yeah, Godly going into this one is going to be really interesting because I know Godly is going to have a chip on his shoulder after the World Championship, and not even just like specifically an Impala thing, but like Godly wanted to win the World Championship regardless of who was in his path. I don't think he was laser focused on any specific enemies, so he's going to be coming into this one kind of carrying the weight from the World Championship and also the Winter Championship. But we got to move on to our next person. It's time. You said it, chat. It's time to spin that wheel. Beep, 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 beep. It's Radish from North America.
Toast is like, we'll spin this wheel a little faster.
Yeah, that's a good speed right there. That's the good speed.
That's a nice fast wheel. Radish, of course, coming hot off the win at the Winter Championship. He's kind of this one that was in the spot that Sack and Neeze were in for a while of like, he was that underdog. He was that person who was on the come up, and now he's kind of here. He's doing really, really good. And I think people still kind of forget how strong of a player he is and his capability of kind of recognizing these super advantageous positions and push that. Again, I'm thinking about that time at the World Championship where he was able to dribble the opponent and make sure they never got their grounding. They never touched down, so they get their jumps back and end up falling.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting case of how are the rest of the players, I'm kind of specifically looking at EU and South America, how are they going to deal with Orb? Because they don't have a lot of experience at the top level of going against Orb players like some of the other North American players, because North America, I mean, like you're looking at them right now, like we have Radish. So we get that Orb gameplay. We get that high-level Orb gameplay, that high-level Petra gameplay. So they have that matchup experience, and that could be an experience for EU and South America. But again, one of the reasons this tournament is so special is because we have only 8 players. And you're going to face every single one of them. And hey, guess what? A lot of them are probably going to play Katars. So you can prepare individually for opponents much more specifically for this tournament than you can other tournaments, because you never know what is going to happen in bracket. If you think you're probably going to face Boomy in the Winter Championship, who knows? Boomy could go down early. We see a lot of upsets in standard brackets. But this, you can look at Radish, and you know with a fact in your mind that you will play against Radish. So you can get that Orb practice in to figure out how to play against Radish. Who is going to do that? Are the other players from the other regions who don't have that practice against Radish, are they going to do that in preparation? Are they going to sleep on Radish? Or are they going to come in with that matchup inexperience and Radish is just going to run wild, kind of like he did in the Winter Championship for North America?
It is funny. He's definitely gonna lean hard on that Orb early. I think he's kind of known as like the big Orb player in North America. We even kind of talk about like, oh yeah, he has those gauntlets. He's done some great stuff with the gauntlets. But like, if you look on social media, if you look at his performance in tournaments, generally it's very heavily reliant on that Orb. I think I saw a meme tweet earlier about how it's like playing against Radish and there's just a bunch of Orb like Nair side air sounds because he's just really heavily relies on the Orb because he does really well with it.
Yeah, there are a lot of Gauntlet legends out there, a lot of strong Gauntlet legends that you could choose if you're a Gauntlet player, but Orb players are going to choose Petra. Pretty much Orb players, period, are a lot of them are going to choose Petra for a lot of good reasons to play this legend. Strong signature kit, of course, strong weapon synergy between the two Gauntlets are amazing. A lot of people playing Gauntlets right now, maybe not as necessarily the mainstay weapon like it used to be. It definitely is in 2s, not quite as much as in 1s, but we still see the Gauntlets coming out in 1s. Then, of course, exactly like you said, he is an Orb player. At the end of the day, Radish relies on that Orb because it's so successful for him.
Okay, let's spin that wheel.
Beep 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 beep.
Did he slow it down?
Beep beep.
Kyna.
Beep. It's Kyna from South America, coming in PR number 1, Duke.
Yeah, of course, that is the South American PR, not overall world PR, but still definitely like the top player in South America as of late. one thing I absolutely adore about Kyna is like Kyna's just really fun to watch. I see Kyna do incredibly well. Has a relatively large character pool. Of course, we've seen the Asuri do pretty well in the Winter Championship, but even going back, of course, we saw the Zol, we saw the Bodvar. Absolutely love seeing Kyna's Bodvar in particular. But he's just like, at the end of the day, like just looking at South America and looking at Kyna, he's just someone who I'm like, I can't help but just be like really excited watching him do crazy things.
So one of the biggest things that Kyna really struggled with at the World Championship, and even a little bit before that, was finally finding that like last KO that he needed to close out the game. That was the biggest problem that Kyna as a Brawlhalla player had, was being a closer and closing out the games when he's in the lead. He has his opponent in KO damage. It's time to look for the standard bread and butter KO. Excuse me. I'm getting a little bit choked up thinking about him losing at the World Championship. But like, I was specifically looking at the Zol, man, and he was throwing out signatures here and there. He wasn't looking for that D-Light neutral air on the cannon setup. He just had such a problem finishing things out. He got to 99%, but that final 1% to win the game was what really took him out of it. It happened against Stingray, an amazing comeback by Stingray, no disrespect there whatsoever, but it also happened against Godly as well. Now, he did come out on top in the Winter Championship, but of course, that was just against the South American region, which is still a strong region, but that's not necessarily like Godly, and that's not Stingray. Two players who will be at the Winter Royale who are some of the absolute best in the absolute best regions.
Yeah, one thing that is unfortunate for Kyna is looking at his performance at the World Championship and seeing who he ended up competing against, because of course that's like the last opportunity for them to kind of have that inter-regional competition. Was he lost to Stingray, like you said, and then he lost to Godly as well. He did end up getting a W over Radish though. That went 3-2, utilizing the Asuri and the Koji.
Yeah, the Asuri is what I'm excited to see from Kyna coming out at the Winter Royale. Maybe we'll get to see a little bit of Bodvar as well, but the last time I saw him play Bodvar, I think it was at an Estasao tournament, and I think he ended up like catching an L there and then maybe swapped off, but I can't remember what he did the rest of the tournament. But I saw him lose, and I don't know if we're going to get to see that much Bodvar gameplay, maybe because there's round robin involved. Like, again, you can catch an L and it's not the end of the world, as long as, like we said earlier, the most important thing you do is learn, and learn quickly, and learn as much as you possibly can, like a sponge, soak everything up. So I'm liking the Asuri pick. If we just see Asuri through the entire Winter Royale, I think Kyna's Asuri is strong. I think Asuri is strong in current meta, and I think there's a lot of great reasons to play the Asuri.
And of course, because Kyna is from the South American region, I gotta hammer home this point, right? The last time that we had this kind of hyper compressed competition, the mid-season invitational, where we had just a handful of people come in from the South American region, that was that opportunity that they took and they ran with, really put South America on the map. It made people go, okay, this is a region that I gotta watch, I gotta pay attention to, because there's some serious hitters here. Of course, getting second place at the mid-season invitational, absolutely massive. So once again, that pressure is still on. This time it's going to be on the shoulders of Kyna and Sack, who weren't at that mid-season invitational. They now have this new pressure of being like, we are the sole representatives. All these other regions, North America, EU, if they don't do that hot, there's someone in chat going, that's fine. Pavelski wasn't there. Fry wasn't there. That's fine. You know, Sandstorm wasn't there.
You've been saying the same dang thing for like 100 years. It's like, Pavelski wasn't there. Yo, Pavelski's there. Pavelski cleans up.
Absolutely. But with South America, if South America does not perform, there's going to be one or two people being like, oh, Fiend wasn't there. West wasn't there. Power wasn't there. Hughes wasn't there. But at the same time, there's going to be a whole lot more people going, yeah, but South America kind of washed, you know what I mean? Like, so there's just this extra level of pressure on Kyna and Sack to at least have one of them make it out of the round robin phase.
Yeah, Wes and Fiend not being the representatives for South America, I didn't even think about that being the thing, because I've been like such a Kyna fan for a minute now, that the fact that like Kyna is there, I'm so stoked. But yeah, that is a lot of pressure being heaped onto the shoulders of relatively new players here from Kyna and Sack. So I'm glad you bring that dynamic up.
All right, let's spin the wheel.
Beep 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 beep. It's Stingray from North America.
I just realized I have closed captions on, and there's just a wall of beeps coming out. That's awesome.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I picked it up.
Yeah. Stingray, of course, the last North American that we have yet to talk about coming out. He's one of those people who, again, I've been so terrible at talking about. I've just not talked enough about how good of a player he is. And one thing that stood out to me about Stingray at the World Championship is his clutch ability, his ability to take these high intensity situations, these last stock red situations, and find the perfect timing to do an Orion down sig and clutch out and win sets.
You mentioned the Orion. That is his absolute top legend. Of course, his two top weapons are Spear and Lance. What does Orion have? Both of those weapons. So the Spear down sig is an incredible tool to use. I mean, just to use it in neutral, as we see him do. He's able to use it on the edge sometimes. He's able to use it to clean up those stocks. There are so many good reasons to play a Suri. Like I said, there are just as many good reasons to play Orion as well. Stingray is one of the best. He's one of the longest, and he's one of the brightest Orion players out there.
Of course, another gold medalist. Looking at his performance in the past year, he has pretty much been just next to the podium, if not on it, right? He's got, of course, the 4th at the Crew Battle Invitational, 1st at the Steel Series Invitational, 4th at Spring Championship, 3rd at Summer, 4th at Autumn, 4th at the World Championship, 2nd at the Winter Championship. He has been very near impossible to get away from those podiums.
And exactly like you mentioned, like we're not seeing that as a notable placement up there, but he did win the Steel Series Invitational. The reason it's not on the graphic is specifically because it was an invitational event. And if you'll notice, everything on the card in front of you, of course, that's an open tournament. So yeah, winning that Steel Series Invitational is huge. He won an invitational event, sort of that smaller, hyper-competitive event. What is this event? It's essentially an in-person invitational here that Stingray will be traveling for. Now, one thing that I did notice from Stingray is not a lot of ranked games. He is number 94 on the ranked ladder for North America on the US East servers, which is, it's still crazy because I look at like number 94 and I'm like, wow, that's quote unquote not great, because normally we're looking at like number 4 and number 5 and number 1 on the ranked ladder. Number 94 is still peak 2490. Like, that's amazing. Like, that's amazing. That's so high on the ranked leaderboard. Of course, he did that with a 62-22 record. So out of 84 games, his win-loss ratio is essentially 3, which is huge. That means he's winning 3 games, losing 1, winning 3, losing 1. That's massive. So even though there's not that many games going on, a total of 84 games coming out from him compared to like the hundreds and hundreds we see from some other players, some of which are going to this tournament, he still has a solid win-loss ratio. And it shows that like his progression in the game isn't coming from rank. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So he's doing it in tournament. He's doing it in community tournaments. He's doing it in scrims. He's doing it in the actual YouTube videos where he takes like the execution from up here and then puts it out into like what your brain should be thinking, what your hands should be doing, what your brain should be telling your hands to do, what your hands should be telling your brain is going on, so on and so forth. So he's coming at his progression as a Brawlhalla player from like a lot of different avenues, and it shows variety. It shows diversification.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a very talented player. And of course, he's going to be unique in that he's one of the only Lance players coming to the event. He's going to be one of the few Orion players. You know, he's going to be bringing something. We kind of talked about how Radish is going to be like that big Petra inside of this event. Stingray is going to be that big like Orion or Brax or Bryn, kind of that niche of Spear Lance play that we're not going to see kind of brought across all these other players.
Yeah, he's one of the few, like, I would say he probably has one of the larger stables of legends that we're likely to see. Like, Godly can play a lot of different legends, but I don't know if we'll see him really reach deep in those pockets, like we might see Stingray. Of course, if we're looking at just the Winter Championship, he played Bryn into Boomy's Tesca. Who are we going to see at this event? We're going to see Machete, who is likely going to play Tesca again. Maybe not, but likely going to play Tesca. So he has that matchup option. We saw him swap to the Orion against Megdee's Asuri. What are we going to see a lot of in this Winter Royale? Probably some Asuri. So he has that matchup. He swapped to Zol for Luna's Mordex. Who are we going to see? Luna here. We also could see some Mordex beyond just Luna. We saw Bryn and Orion to fight Radish's Petra. Radish is going to be here. He has that matchup knowledge. So he also has like Bryn, Zol, Vrax, Orion. He has a handful of others that he likes to pick out every now and then. I don't think we're going to see like the Ragnar come out, but he could lean on another Qatar legend aside from that, or he could bring the Ragnar out. So I think Stingray has a lot more variety than I think what a lot of players are necessarily used to, except for maybe those North American players who are used to going up against a player like Stingray.
Okay, I think we have one more person to talk
I know we at least got Machete.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and spin the wheel and we'll see if it lands on literally the last person left.
Beep 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 beep. Nope, that's me. That's just me. That's just me, and it's cropped badly, so you can see the drawers I got right here. You can see the clippies here. So we're getting a little bit inside baseball here. And it's Machete coming all the way from France in the EU. You can see the Tesca in front of you. He was the winner of the Winter Championship, like you can see on your screen. Of course, he did it with the Tesca. He was one of the few majorly performing Tescas that came out of the Winter Championship in 1v1.
Yeah, that's the thing that stands out specifically about Machete. Of course, he's got a large character pool. We've talked about the Tesca, talked about the Olgrim, talked about even the fact that he has a Enchantress or Fate, right? He's definitely got like a wide variety of characters he can kind of lean into, but just looking at his general performances, right, he has not always been in that podium. Of course, he's got the first place at the Winter Championship, but he got a 13th at the World Championship, 5th at Autumn, 3rd at the Summer Championship, 4th at the Mid-Season, 5th at the Spring Championship, and then a 25th at the Steel Series Invitational. Like, it kind of bounces around a little bit for Machete's performances.
And if we look at his matchups against some of the players that'll be going up against in the Winter Royale, we can kind of see that as well. We see Machete v Godly. That's an 0-3 for Machete in community and official tournaments. But then we look at Machete against Neeze, and he's 8-5. So he is a hefty 3 sets ahead, and that's after 13 different sets in official and community tournaments. So Machete and Neeze run up against one another pretty often, and it's usually a victory for Machete. But then if you look at Machete against Sack, oh wait, Sack has a winning record against Machete.
Let's go, Sack.
Let's go, Sack. You did it, brother.
On the board.
Let's go. All right, so Machete actually has a losing record against Sack as well. But man, I'm looking at that 8-5 against Neeze, and I'm just seeing Machete having Neeze's number, but then I'm seeing Godly have Machete's number. So it'll be interesting if he sticks on Tesca specifically throughout this entire tournament. He won Winter Championship with Tesca, but like maybe since then people have started like learning that matchup, or at least the players who are going to this tournament have started learning that matchup better because they know that they're going to have to go up against Machete no matter what. So there has been a lot more prep time against the battle boots, and specifically against, of course, Tesca.
Yeah, that's it's going to be really interesting, specifically what the decisions Machete makes. Will he stick with the Tesca or will he swap off? Because, like, of course, going into the Winter Championship, a lot of people were like, oh, this character's crazy, it's super strong, yada, yada, yada. Only one player ended up getting a gold medal with it, and that was Machete. Even in North America, one of the other like kind of prominent regions that people look at to talk about the balance discussion, like the Tescas didn't do that amazing, and then coming out of that, people were like, oh, maybe North America has an answer to Tesca. Maybe North America knows what actually to do against this character, and then we'll kind of get to see if that's actually true if we go into the Winter Royale and Machete just kind of runs wild on everyone, or if Machete struggles and maybe is forced to one of his older, more classic characters.
So that is all I have for the players that we'll be seeing at the Winter Royale. It's going to be a fantastic tournament. Duke, what else do you have for us?
I think that's going to close out our little before the brawl. Of course, we've still got 4 minutes left on the clock. So once again,
we just did an hour?
Yeah.
Hey, good for us.
Yeah, we're so good at talking about people.
I didn't get bored a single time.
Just a little bit for me. Again, we have the Winter Royale coming in this weekend, Friday and Saturday. Make sure that you watch it. It's going to be 2v2s on Friday. It's going to be a super fun time. And then once we get into the competition on Saturday, we told you about all these players, but of course, now's your opportunity to kind of start doing your research, figure out, Google yourself who you want to kind of back, because of course we're going to be throwing our predictions once we get into Saturday, and of course that's your opportunity to look in Odin's journal and be like, you know what, I'm smarter than Duke, I'm smarter than Sparky, because both of them put Godly and Godly did terrible, or both of them put Sack and Sack did, or didn't put Sack and Sack did amazing, whatever, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know we say this a lot, but this one's going to be really interesting because of the new format, because like you mentioned, we have twos involved, so there will be something going on with twos, but that's not really the focus for this event. This is specifically a 1v1 event, so we'll get like the fun side of twos without like all of the stakes, all of the money, all of the glory, all of the PR points, all of the seeding, all that kind of business. We'll get to see like the fun of twos, but then we will also get to see the hyper focus on ones. They want that prize pool. Now, this isn't actually going to add into PR because, of course, invitationals never add into PR, but this is still a big deal for all of these players. This is essentially a mini LAN. This is important practice. Even aside from this event, they're going to this event looking at the ramifications of what happens in front of them, but also this has ramifications for the rest of the year. So we're looking at short-term importance and long-term importance coming from the Winter Royale.
Yeah, on that note, I think it's time for us to close out. Thank you all for watching our Before the Brawl with regards to the Winter Royale. Make sure you catch the Winter Royale this weekend. And for now, I've been Duke, and that's been Sparky. Thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye. Spin it out. Do we need to do some beeps? We can do some beeps.
I'm not going to beat for like for that long.
Yeah, 999 frames is a long time.
That's a long time.